It was one of those evenings when the world seemed to hold its breath. The air was still, the sky painted in fading strokes of gold and violet, and the lake shimmered like glass. Lena sat on the old wooden pier, legs crossed, tossing pebbles into the water. She wasn't there for the view, she was there because of the letter. The letter had no sender, no name, just her address and 3 words written in careful handwriting. Meet me here. Inside was a single pressed flower, a blue cornflower, slightly faded, and a date. June 14th p.m. That was today. Her heart had been restless for days. She told herself it was a prank, but deep down she knew. Only one person used to leave cornflowers for her. No, they met 5 years ago, at this very lake. She was 17, full of fire and plans, sketching the landscape for an art project. He was 19, repairing a boat for his uncle. He dropped his wrench into the water, cursed loudly, and she laughed so hard she nearly fell in. That was their beginning laughter, sunlight, and small talk that lasted hours. But things changed. Noah left for university abroad. They promised to write to visit. They didn't. Life got loud, and their silence grew heavier. The last message he sent was a photo of this lake at sunset, captioned, "You always be my calm." And then nothing. Now, after years of silence, a letter had arrived. Lena looked at her watch. 7:12 p.m. No sign of him. Only the rippling lake and the whisper of wind. She sighed, stood up, and turned to leave. Then she heard footsteps behind her. Lena? Her heart stopped. That voice deeper now, but still warm, familiar. She turned around slowly, and there he was. Noah, older, taller, with tired eyes and a hesitant smile. "You came," he said softly. "I almost didn't," she admitted. "I thought it might be some kind of joke." He smiled faintly. "If it were, it'd be a terrible one." For a moment, silence stretched between them. The years apart, the unspoken words, the old feelings, they all hung in the air. Then Lena asked, "Why now? After all this time?" He took a deep breath and pulled something from his pocket, another letter, old and crumpled. "I wrote to you," he said, "so many times, but I never sent them. I thought you'd moved on. Then last month, my MOM found this." He held up the letter. "It was the one you sent before I left, the one I never opened." Her eyes widened. "You never opened it?" He shook his head. "I was scared. And when I finally did open it, 5 years later, you wrote that you'd wait for me, that you wanted to meet here again someday." She looked down, her chest tight. "I don't even remember writing that." "I do," he said. "I read it 100 times." They sat down on the edge of the pier. As the sky deepened into blue, fireflies began to flicker in the reeds. Noah told her about his years abroad, the noise, the rush, the loneliness that never left. She told him about her art school, how she painted this lake over and over again, as if painting him back into her life. "You know what's strange?" she said after a while. "Every time I came here, I felt like you were still around, like the lake remembered us." He smiled. "Maybe it did. Maybe that's why I came back." Then he reached into his jacket again and pulled out a small box. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a tiny blue stone, the color of the cornflower. "It's not much," he said quietly, "but I thought you deserved an ending that wasn't silence." She looked at him, her eyes shining. "Noah, it's not an ending." He frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" She smiled a small, trembling smile. "It's a beginning." For the first time in years, the tension broke. He laughed, that same deep, unguarded laugh she remembered. The sound made her heart race. Without thinking, she leaned closer, and he met her halfway. The kiss was gentle at first, uncertain, then full of all the words they hadn't said. The lake shimmered, the world seemed to blur, and time paused just for them. When they finally pulled away, Lena whispered, "Do you think we can start again?" He brushed his thumb against her cheek. "We never really stopped." They stayed there long after the stars appeared, talking about everything, their mistakes, their dreams, the what ifs. It felt like rediscovering a melody they once wrote together and forgot the tune of. As the night grew colder, Noah took off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. "I'm not leaving again," he said. "Not unless you tell me to." She smiled and leaned against him. "Then I guess you're staying." The moonlight glowed across the lake, and the water reflected them like a memory finally set free. Somewhere, in the stillness, a cornflower floated past us small. The next morning, sunlight broke through the mist. The lake looked different, now softer, almost too quiet. Lena woke up alone on the pier. The jacket Noah had placed on her shoulders was gone. For a second, she smiled. Maybe he'd gone to get coffee or breakfast from the nearby shop. But as minutes passed, something felt wrong. His footprints were still fresh on the damp wooden boards, but they stopped at the edge of the pier, nowhere else. Her chest tightened. "Noah?" She called. No answer. Only the echo of her voice and the gentle slap of water against the shore. She checked her phone. No messages. No calls. His social media silent, old posts untouched for years. And then she noticed the box. The silver bracelet, the one with the blue stone, was lying beside her, open. But the stone had cracked in half, as if it had never been real at all. Lena froze. Her hands trembled as she looked toward the lake. In the morning light, she could see something fainter. Reflection of a figure, standing on the opposite shore. It looked like him, but when she blinked, it was gone. Confusion swelled in her chest, cold and heavy. That afternoon, she went to the small village nearby, asking the locals if they'd seen Noah. The old woman at the CF frowned and shook her head. Noah, she said slowly. You mean Noah Miles? The boy who used to work at the docks. Lena nodded. The woman looked at her, puzzled. Darling, Noah died 5 years ago, drowned right here, in this lake. His boat overturned during a storm. They never found his body. The world tilted. For a long moment, Lena couldn't breathe. She stared at the woman, waiting for her to laugh, to say it was a mistake. But she didn't. When Lena returned to the lake that evening, the same cornflower was floating near the pier, perfectly blue, untouched by time. She sat down slowly, tears blurring her vision. Everything felt unreal: the letter, the meeting, the kiss. And yet, she could still feel his jacket's warmth, still hear his laugh echoing in her mind. Then she noticed something else. A small carving on the pier's wood, faint but new. You always be my calm. The same words from his last message. Her breath hitched. She reached out and traced the letters with her fingers. The wood was still rough, as if carved only hours ago. For a long time, Lena sat there, between disbelief and longing. The sun dipped below the trees, painting everything gold again, the same color as that evening before. And as the shadows deepened, she whispered, I guess you kept your promise, just not the way I thought. A soft breeze rippled through the reeds, and the cornflower drifted closer, stopping right at her feet. She smiled through her tears and whispered, Goodbye, Noah. And for just a second, in the shimmer of the lake's surface, she saw him again, standing there, smiling gently, mouthing the words. No goodbyes, just calm. The reflection faded. The lake went still, and Lena finally understood some love stories don't end when life does. They simply change form. Final note. It wasn't a story of reunion anymore. It was a story of remembering that some promises are kept not in presents, but in the quiet echoes of memory, and in the places where love first began.